YouTube normally recommends me a absolute mix of videos. A lot of them are Sunderland related. Oh my god. YouTube recommends me a lot of different style of YouTube. Why am I stuttering with this? I shouldn't really be stuttering with this. YouTube normally recommends me a good mix of videos, shall I say. This one, however, I was a little bit more intrigued and I thought this is perfect for a video that I could react to a little bit raw and live. The thumbnail is Doomed. Arsenal doomed in the Premier League. It's from a chap called Benjamin Bloom. I didn't even know the watch feature was a thing, but I want to watch this video and just basically react to it every so often. I'm not too sure how this is going to go in editing, but let's see.
Lee asks, what calibre of players does Sunderland need to sign for the Prem? And United Ultra asks, do you think Sunderland will get above Derby's 07-08 points total?
So yes, this looks like it's already from a Q&A session. Thank you for reading those questions out, Benjamin. I know they haven't asked me those questions, but caliber of players for Sunderland that is needed, before he answers, is obviously Premier League level quality. We need more mature heads, potentially a lot of players that are on that pacier side because of our current play style. Reggie Labrie likes to catch teams on the counter, and we will need a lot more resolute defensive players. So that's my answer on the first one. And do you think we'll have less points than Derby, the worst ever Premier League team? No, simple as that. We're going to get 6 points against the Mags, so that's already halfway there. Right.
First of all, I will say it is a sad indictment of where we are with promoted teams into the Premier League.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point as well. We have Nottingham Forest, which was promoted 4 seasons ago, is the latest Premier League squad that is still there. Leeds, Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich, Luton Town, Burnley, and Sheffield United have all gone down and up a couple of times in that time, and it's been a while since we've had fresh blood stay in the Premier League. So I get where he's coming from, but hopefully we're the team that changes it. So yeah, let's see if he brings that up.
That we've moved, and it's not an unreasonable question from United Ultra, that we've moved from, can Sunderland, who are the team that won the playoff final, the lowest ranked team in next season's Premier League, essentially, they finished, what were they, 4th, so 24th in the pyramid. They're now.
Yes, but so I get where he's coming from again with this one. Sunderland, obviously, the playoff team was already automatically the least favourite to stay up. I get that, and ranked 24th at the end of that campaign, I think, is a little bit of a falsehood, because obviously you've got the 3 teams that are relegated. You need to push them out of that calculation, and again, the promoted sides, you need to push out that calculation. So those 6 teams you can wiggle around anywhere. We finished 4th in the Championship, but we are now 20th in the Premier League. So we're the 20th best club in the pyramid. That's why we're back in the Premier League. That's how that works. So yeah, okay. I get where it comes. It's nuance of the league table. Fine.
Now in the top 20. And the question is not, can Sunderland survive, but can Sunderland avoid being the worst team in Premier League history with that, whatever it is, 11 points for Derby. So first of all, and I'm not having a pop at the question, it's not an unreasonable question, Kim.
I think it's a really unreasonable question. Sorry. I don't know enough about his community, but seeing 07-08 is a marker to get over. We've played 38 games. Even if you're bad in the vast majority of them, there is games you still win playing like that. Derby County that season was an absolute freak of nature. Sunderland have had horrific seasons in the Premier League in the past, and we have finished as the official before that Derby team, the worst team to ever face to get relegated in the Premier League. But that's now surpassed by three other teams. So it's a strange barometer, and obviously the Premier League has moved on a lot from when we got those tallies, but also it's moved on a lot since Derby went down. That's nearly 20 years ago. It's 18 years ago. Yeah.
We are where we are in football and the chasms. Isn't it sad that we feel we should ask that? Because when Derby broke that points record, it wasn't that Derby came up and it was mission impossible for the team that won the playoffs. Derby won the playoffs as well, didn't they, under Billy Davis? I think it was just a ridiculous... they didn't sign anybody, did they? And there was... I think I've watched a pretty good video about it on YouTube. Someone's done a deep dive there. And
Okay, I'd like to see that link. If you can pop that link somewhere for me, Benjamin, that would be great. But again, like I said, it's nearly 20 years ago. If anything, that Derby promotion for me, based on what you've said, 1 minute 38 into this video, were underprepared and unwilling to invest in their squad when they went up. They were up there to try and just exist for that season and hope it went better than it did. That is nowhere near what any Premier League club is doing now, especially Sunderland. So I'm just going to switch me back to full screen. Sunderland right now, with their proposed 5-year model from the KLD takeover, has been discussed. It's been up and down roller coaster because obviously when we finished 16th, it felt like we were heading backwards. But we're ahead of plan. There's a strong investment in it, and we've recruited extremely well and sold extremely well. This transfer window, we're looking at, with Tommy Watson and Job already potentially fetching nearly 50 million, we have the capital immediately to invest in good Premier League quality players. Yes, we've already spent some of that on Enzo Lafi's signing, but he's from Roma and he's got the talent. He is Premier League quality. We have some players that are Premier League quality already. And I'm not just saying like Premier League survivable quality. I'm saying like mid-table, top 10 quality. I can see some of our players getting hijacked by other clubs. Very similar to Liam Delap as with Chelsea. But yeah, back to the video.
there was a managerial change. I think they won one game, didn't they? And then
against the Mags,
south under Paul Jewell, and then they tried to sign.
Sorry, I forgot about that. The only team not to pick up 3 points against Derby County in that season was the Mags. I think they drew one game and lost the other against Derby County. So that's a fun little old factoid that you can pull back on.
Say experienced players, and then the dressing room was lost, the recruitment went down, you get on the losing streak, and oh my God, it was horrible for those Derby fans. But Sunderland, I mean, look, arguably every team that gets promoted comes into the Premier League with some momentum, don't they? I know it's tricky, and we've seen teams kind of immediately stink it out, but...
Okay, so like I said at the very start of the video, there has been a good number of teams that have been promoted in the last couple of years that have had poor starts. And again, we don't know the fixtures yet. It's too early. But it's more about how well we set ourselves up and who's in our squad at that moment. So there's a lot of variables that are just way too soon to start calling Sunderland are going to start the season really poorly. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. I think it's a very premature to say we're going to have a horrible season. However, that said, if we do retain the majority of our squad, as in our core first 11, we might pick up a point here and there. Our wider squad that has been injured and out on loan, I think there is a lot of offloading to be done around that. And I might do a separate video individually of players I'd like to see either their value, if we were to keep them, or keep them, start them in the Premier League. So Yeah, let me know if you want that in the comments. But back to Ben.
But you'd think Sunderland would have some momentum. So we'll circle back and we will talk about that a bit more. What calibre of players does Sunderland need to sign for the Premier League?
Okay, I
I
answered this
mean,
earlier.
I
So
could sarcastically say good players, players that will keep them up, the best players they can possibly get. And although those answers are a bit reductive, they're all kind of true.
yeah, fair point. It's kind of the same thing I was saying at the start. We need Premier League quality players to stay in the Premier League. It is that simple. If we are recruiting Championship players, they are those players that are rumoured already to be siphoned by the Premier League sides. It's not as if we're looking to solidify in the Championship. We're looking to get ourselves established in the Premier League. Premier League quality players. That's it. It is again very simple, very reductive, like Benjamin says here. But yeah,
I think we need to look at what Sunderland have done so far. And
okay.
let's be honest, I didn't think it would work to get them promoted, not in the time that they've done it, where the strategy has been they've gone to the European market and they've just bought all young players, basically, haven't they? And
Yes, we have Benjamin. So our recruitment model has been mainly, and again, it kind of had that era in the not last season, the season before, where it was just kids. Like we had the youngest ever championship squad. We brought in Chris Rigg, who was 15, turning 16 that season. It was literally, let's throw the kids at it and see what happens. We did just enough under the Mowbray era of that season, and it did start to tail off, and the changes might have been needed, but maybe not getting rid of Mowbray was a catalyst. Bringing in, I've got to say his name, guys, Michael Beale. Bringing in Michael Beale was just the wrong decision, and it brought a lot of issues to the forefront. Because again, the season before, all we did was we lost to Luton Town in the playoffs because we didn't have mature centre backs. We recruited the centre backs, but they were all still on that younger side. So that tail end of November through to when we finished 16th was a fantastic kick in the arse. We needed that to get ourselves into that. We need a mix of these young gems, these European market gems that Benjamin's mentioning here, plus everybody else on top that has the maturity and quality in them to be Premier League. And again, the easiest example I have for that is Chris Meffam. Chris Meffam's coming to the squad. He's on the more mature side versus our other players, and he did exactly what we needed him to do. We finished in the playoffs very comfortably, very early, and maybe the momentum towards the actual back end of the last season was excuses of rotating players, trying new things. But when we came into the playoffs, we played every game tactically perfectly. The first half of the Wembley game was a bit hit and miss, and we were lucky to only go in 1-0. But we did what we needed to do, and we're now Premier League. So the recruitment, yes, using that European market is a test, but it's effective. It's worked for us. we can double down on it, or we can do that hybrid mix again. So it's not just kids. It's a balance of identifying where the most improvement can be made and finding a player that matches that improvement style. I'll get more into it further in the video.
let me just bring I think I can do it with the ages if you bring up the playoff final. Even people like
24.3 years was the youngest ever playoff side to be promoted.
Yeah, look at that. Sirkin 23, Hume 23, Riggs 17, Neil 23, Bellingham 19, Mundell 22. I mentioned the European market. Big majority of them are British. Obviously, we're then going to go on to Mayenda up top and Lefay. He's a little bit older. I mean,
so Mayenda is obviously Spanish, and Isidore is French. Enzo Lefay, it comes from the Italian leagues. But again, like It's not like we've just went to the European market and found players. We found hungry players. We found that talent that wants to prove themselves, wants to get to the Premier League. Um, I guess it's a little reductive in that every player playing for every team wants that, but given the right nurture, we found those players that actually deliver on their words.
What an old age pensioner at 25. Obviously, Watson was in there as well.
Luke got 9, come on.
Isidor's only 24. And then you do have those people, Samed, Gelder.
But Luke got
They
9,
brought
come
in
on.
loads, didn't they?
Are you
Jensen
talking about
Seal, is he still there?
Yep.
Cheech, who went to
Sheesh,
who
no,
went to
he's
Pompey.
gone.
So you would think that Sunderland would have to do something similar, or they couldn't completely pivot to something different. We've seen different strategies. We had Burnley's kind of buy British type thing, and they did go to the EFL a fair amount.
Okay. So Burnley's recruitment model is a very interesting one. Obviously, they went up, came back down. They stuck by Company, and they were promoted again. They've got 100 points this season. Like, their squad is quality. Defensively, one of the best Championship teams I've ever seen. Although boring at sometimes, they're the most nil-nils in a season by any promoted club ever. So yeah, like comparing one team to another is a little reductive in that we can learn from who they've gone and how they've gone about it. But that doesn't mean if we were to have that exact same conversation with that player, they want to come to Sunderland. So again, it's finding players that are hungry for Sunderland, hungry for Premier League, and going at it the right way.
Didn't they? Will
Yeah.
that work now? Will anything work now?
Okay, yeah, sorry. And again, Nottingham Forest, the last team to steal, absolutely threw money at the wall. Potentially were in breach of some financial fair play rules. They spread it out over a number of years, some of their contracts. So if they were to go down, they were looking to offload straight away. Maybe we could do that as well. Some really big long-term contracts and just play it smart. We've got to look at this market in a very, very, very smart way. Otherwise, we are going to struggle.
What I think Sunderland probably will do in respects of, can they now do what they were doing, but just at a different level?
The simple answer to that is yes, because we are now a Premier League team. That Premier League badge, that Premier League status will maybe attract a couple more of those egotistical players, but it will make that convincing of you will be a Premier League player versus a Premier League promotion chasing team in the Championship player. Like, just the simplicity of that word is what you're looking at here. I don't know why I'm using this example, but it's no different from buying a brand new car versus a second hand of the same model. Like, it's easy to sell a person who's looking for the big money that first hand. You're the first owner of it, whereas the current players we have is in that second hand dealership, looking for the Premier League. Let's keep moving.
Instead of signing, young European players for 2 million, they can sign them for 5 million.
Yeah, perfect.
10 million and build up like that. But
we can also look
full
at
well, because I support Ipswich and I've just been through this rigmarole that Sunderland are about to go through. You are going to get the people that say they don't have enough Premier League experience, and it's
that's proper funny. So he's getting a like just for that. That's how you sometimes read some comments, by the way, when you're coming on to the channel. Like, you've got to, with Premier League experience, we have kids who've never been in the Championship before. So I don't think that is a barrier to our recruitment. It's
very, very frustrating, because you go up as a team that you literally can't spend as much money as the rest of the 17 because you didn't have parachute payments, and even if you did, you've got what have Sunderland got? 3 years of PSR limit based on Championship level. So the rolling 3 year to include their first year of Premier League would have 2 Championship years on. So literally, you're at a point where you can't spend as much money in terms of PSR. I know Sunderland have got a big stadium, and it.
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly interject about the PSR conversation here. So PSR is a restriction on how much you can invest in the club over a certain period of time. It's a rebrand of the financial fair play rules a couple of years ago. If it does materialise that this season the free promoted clubs go down again, so therefore we've had a 5-year gap between any promoted club and the current 17, that's a monopoly. And if the league becomes a monopoly, the competition's not there. The drive for anybody in the Championship is to potentially split away from the Premier League. You don't want that. When the Premier League was, 6 of the teams in the Premier League were looking to create that European Super League, there was uproar. There'll be uproar in this again. So I think the best thing for this league would be to at least keep one of the promoted teams, just for competition's sake. And but let's say the story's going to unfold one way or the other. Us, Burnley, and Leeds are going to do some strange and wonderful things in this window, and I think that's more exciting to me than are we going to go up to push them back down. That's more the story I would like to talk about.
Well on commercials, but that's not going to hit an impact straight away.
Oh. It's not going to hit straight away, you're right. Maybe the discussion is, do you lapse or relax those rules for the free promoted teams for the first season they're in, and therefore you reduce or remove that competition and allow them to balance themselves up to the Premier League quality, with the caveat that if they are on the shortfall, they don't do what we did a couple of seasons ago and do the double dip, and Luton Town very recently.
August 2025, when they essentially want to build a squad to keep them in the Premier League. Look, if the question is, can Sunderland ride out their current 11, it's probably not going to work. That 11 finished 4th in the Championship, and okay, they're all better players than.
So I mean, yes, like if you look at just the end table of the season, we finished 11th. We knew we were finishing 4th guaranteed late March, early April. Like that was guaranteed. The gap between the top 2 and the top 3 was getting ridiculous, and there was always a big cushion between us and 5th. Even losing 5 games in a row, there was still a 7-point gap between us and 5th. Like our season was done a lot sooner than everybody else's. Looking at 4th place and 74 points is a little bit reductive. And also the 3 teams above us were parachute payment clubs. So you again have that discussion, is the monopoly and the parachute payments creating this disparage and imbalance in the EFL and the Championship and the Premier League. Sorry.
Presumably they were at the start of the season. So yeah, I would suggest the calibre of player, Lee, that Sunderland need to sign in the Premier League is what they have been doing, European market with. Is Speakman still the
Yeah, Speakman is yes, he is.
It's been their strategy, but bring up the level. Can you go a higher calibre and build in?
Yes, I think so. Yes, we can.
But can Sunderland do anything in the Premier League like that? Well, I blooming well hope they can, because we're in a pitiful situation if someone...
Boom! Subscribed!
It's a great story, Sunderland, isn't it? You know,
to be fair, I was already subscribed.
Bad times under Ellis Short. Pulls out the parachute money and gets out of Dodge. They end up in League One.
Yeah,
buffoonery ownership there in that silly Sunderland Till I Die documentary. Changes round again, and they're back in the Championship, losing the playoffs. Bad season last season. Go again with a young European squad, and winning the playoff final in the last minute as well in stoppage time. It's a hell of a story. You don't want it to then be, well, that's the end of the fun, guys. It's going to be rubbish.
This is why I like Benjamin, by the way. He's clearly, I was going to say, clearly an Ipswich fan. You might be able to see his little teddy bear in the background with an Ipswich shirt on. But the fact that he has this kind of in-depth flow over the last couple of seasons, the mini stories of each of the teams that he talks about, is quite showing of how switched on and how how unnaive I guess he is to their stories. And I think I'm the polar opposite of that. I'm just 100% Sunderland. Like Sunderland, whoever we play next, I will catch up the week before, find out what they're doing, so or where they've been or who their players are. I might have to do a little bit more research into the biggest threats and what have you for the Premier League, because every player has that long journey and who's coming back, and every player has the potential in the Premier League to score a goal from nothing. So, yeah, I really respect Benjamin for actually just as a mutual third party, I guess, understanding where we've come from, especially
in the Premier League now.
Yeah.
And you will get that clanging, annoying from mainstream pundits of, oh, you see now, what promoted teams need to be able to do is they need to be able to defend. Like the promoted teams aren't trying to defend and aren't trying to stop the teams with 30 international players and who have built up squads with 100 million quid TV money over 10 and 20 years every season, some of them.
Again, that's sorry. I can just pause. Again, Burnley was the best defensive team in the league last season, and I will be doing a prediction video. But spoiler alert: just defending really, really well does not mean you'll be able to score goals. You might be able to pick up an extra point here or there, but if you only draw every single game, which is what the threat of Burnley is next season, that's 38 points. That's still in most seasons relegation. So. And don't get me wrong, they will concede, especially against some of the big talent in the Premier League.
Oh yeah, we're not trying to defend here, and we're naive by trying to, use the same attacking patterns of play that we use that literally got us in Sunderland's terms 76 and Burnley and Leeds at 100. Sunderland proved they can defend, particularly in the playoffs with that tournament football. So look. They'll be damned if they do and damned if they don't if they're in the bottom three, Sunderland. So exactly. I hope sincerely to that second question that they will be above Derby's 07-08 points total.
I think that comment's just a little bit harsh.
Could the world, not just the football world, have some empathy for somebody who is seemingly highly disadvantaged here, trying to do their best?
Yeah.
Or will these imbeciles and on the very mainstream platforms just yell and shout at Sunderland if they struggle, that they're pathetic and they're useless and have no empathy for the rather difficult situation that Sunderland will be in next season. Lee asked.
I really like that video. We're not watching Pyro. We're not watching Pyro. We're not watching Pyro. Let me move back to my camera. Yes, great video from Benjamin there. If you haven't already, subscribe to him. Hopefully, this video doesn't get flagged too much, and he respects what I've tried to do here. And again, with Ipswich, there will be a couple of players that we could potentially acquire from him. So if he's got any recommendations of players that are outside of Liam Delap, Jack Claw, we'd have him back. Are those recommendations of some of those players Premier League ready, and would they fit into our squad? Because there is that potential to get some Premier League experience from somebody who's been there and done it. And that's it. That's my video. That's my reaction to another video. Again, hope you like it. Smash a like if you did. See you on the next one. Well, lads. Stop the recording.